In a town where love stories are whispered into legend and heartbreaks echo for generations, one name still lingers like a ghost in the wind: Adaeze. She was beautiful, beloved, and bound for a love that promised forever. But when a broken engagement, a rekindled romance, and a mysterious wedding guest collide, her dream turned into a tragedy the town has never forgotten. Was it betrayal that ended her, or a curse woven in silence? This isn't just a love story, it's a warning wrapped in lace and shadow, where choices cut deeper than knives and the past refuses to stay buried. This is the story of Adaeze, and once you hear it, you'll never forget it. Shadows beneath the veil. In the heart of a small, close-knit Nigerian town, where everyone knew everyone's business and whispers moved faster than the wind, love stories either blossomed into folklore or withered into warnings. This is the story of Adaeze, bright, beautiful, and beloved, whose love journey began as a tale of destiny but ended in shadows that still linger in the corners of her family's hearts. Adaeze met Chuka when they were barely teenagers, fumbling through the innocence of youth and the fluttering of first love. They were inseparable, walking home from school together, sharing akara under mango trees, whispering dreams of a future painted in the hues of forever. For years, theirs was the love everyone admired. But life, with its wild currents, tore them apart just when they were on the cusp of adulthood. Chuka's father secured a job in Lagos, and his family moved. The distance stretched between them like a rope being pulled too tight until it frayed and snapped. They spoke less, then not at all. Adaeze stayed behind, nursing her silence and the void Chuka left. Over time, both accepted that their paths had split, or so it seemed. While Adaeze focused on nursing school and caring for her widowed mother, Chuka returned years later to the same community they both once called home. He had grown into a man, taller, darker, with a quiet confidence. But he wasn't alone. He had started seeing another woman, Ifunanya, a childhood friend who had also grown in the same soil, under the same sun. Ifunanya was no stranger to Adaeze. They had attended the same primary school, played in the same compound. When whispers reached Adaeze that Chuka and Ifunanya were growing close, she buried the sting behind smiles. People began referring to Ifunanya as Chuka's wife, even though no official vows had been exchanged. It seemed fated. The community blessed it, and the pair moved as though the wedding was only a matter of time. But fate is fickle. One humid evening, Chuka and Adaeze bumped into each other at a naming ceremony. Their eyes met, and something shifted. Memories, long buried, came rushing in like a tide. They talked. Then they talked some more. Days turned into weeks. The old bond was still there, aged maybe, but unbroken. Without much fanfare, they decided to reconnect. And just like that, Chuka broke things off with Ifunanya. The community reeled. Whispers turned into full-blown speculation. Ifunanya's family, particularly her mother, Madame Uzoamaka, a woman known for her deep spiritual ties and fierce loyalty, felt insulted, betrayed. Still, love marched forward. Chuka proposed, and Adaeze, radiant with joy and naivete, said yes. The wedding was a grand affair. The whole town showed up, if not in celebration, then in curiosity. Adaeze wore a gleaming white gown with silver embroidery that shimmered under the sun. Chuka looked regal in his agbada, flanked by groomsmen whose smiles were wide but eyes wary. What people didn't see What they couldn't see was the undercurrent of dread that flowed beneath the surface of the celebration. A few days before the wedding, Adaeze confided in her sister that she had been having strange dreams. Faceless women weeping, red rivers flowing through white sand, and whispers that echoed in her ears even after waking. Her mother urged her to pray, to fast, to be vigilant. But Adaeze laughed it off. "It's just nerves," she said. The wedding proceeded. Music blared, hips swayed, and naira notes floated through the air like confetti. During the reception, something bizarre occurred, something that remains a mystery till today. A few guests swore they saw Madame Uzoamaka arrive, dressed in a head tie as red as fresh blood, and walk up to Adaeze. They said she smiled and sprayed crisp currency notes on Adaeze's forehead, her fingers lingering unnaturally long against her skin. But others said she was never at the wedding. In fact, multiple guests claimed she had been out of town entirely, attending a funeral in another village. Some dismissed it as confusion. Others, more spiritually inclined, insisted it was an apparition, a spiritual manifestation of a woman who had been deeply wronged and had sought her vengeance, the only way she knew how. That night, Adaeze complained of a pounding headache. Her new husband assumed it was exhaustion. After all, weddings are draining, but by morning she couldn't stand. Her voice trembled as she described a burning in her skull. She was rushed to the hospital, then referred to another. Tests showed nothing abnormal. Doctors shrugged. By Sunday evening, she was unconscious. By Tuesday, she was gone. A single breathless whisper was all she left behind. "Forgive me." No one knew who it was for. The town fell silent, her family shattered. Chuka, inconsolable, sat beside her body for hours, gripping her hand as though he could pull her back. She had been heavily pregnant, 3 months along. The life inside her, too, snuffed out before it had a chance to bloom. The mourning was thunderous, but louder than grief was fear. Speculation spread like wildfire. Some believed Madame Uzoamaka had cursed her. Others swore it was the wrath of a broken heart, that Ifunanya had been so wounded, so humiliated, that her pain turned into something dark and destructive. But the family knew the truth, or believed they did.
Adaeze's mother wept, with her hands clutched around her chest, crying not just for her lost daughter, but for the warnings she hadn't heeded, for the signs Adaeze had brushed off, for the dreams they dismissed. From that day, a new rule was written into the family's legacy. Never make promises you won't keep. Never tread lightly where hearts are concerned. Never tamper with love unless you are prepared for what follows. They began to speak in proverbs. When a man picks 2 wives from the same stream, one will drown. You cannot pluck joy from the same tree where you buried betrayal. The younger ones, nieces, nephews, cousins, grew up with this tale not as gossip but as a sacred caution. Love, they were taught, is not a game, especially when the heart has once been a battlefield, especially when someone else still carries scars. Years passed. Chuka left the town, hollowed out and aimless. Ifunanya moved away too, carrying with her a silence no one dared question. Madame Uzoamaka, still strong in her twilight years, never spoke of what happened, but her eyes held something no one could decipher. Regret, perhaps, or triumph. Adaeze was buried beneath the old cashew tree beside her father. Her grave was whitewashed every year. Her story never softened with time. It hardened like a shell around the hearts of her kin. And every wedding in that town since then is marked by a moment of silence, a breath held, a quiet hope that love, this time, won't cost a soul.